Radiation is defined in Webster's dictionary as the process of emitting radiant energy in the form of waves or particles. Irradiation is defined in Webster's dictionary as the process of being exposed to radiation. As technology advances, scientists and engineers continue to search for groundbreaking new ways to ensure the public's overall health and safety. Many of these technological advances incorporate radiation, such as certain cancer treatments, security bag checks in airports, sterilizing medicinal products, and much more. Food irradiation is a tool that is not only logical to use, but has tons of positive effects as well. Although irradiating food is not a new idea, the patent was given in the early 1900s, it was not a heated topic until fairly recently, when the United States Food and Drug Association approved its use on a wide variety of foods that include chicken, turkey, and other types of poultry. In short, food irradiation is a process that can effectively eliminate almost all the harmful pathogens living on certain foods. During this process, the food is exposed to ionizing radiation, which in turn destroys the bacteria, viruses, and all other microorganisms. In addition to destroying these harmful pathogens, irradiation can be used to delay ripening, increase juice yield, prevent sprouting, and even rehydrate certain foods. According to the FDA, the irradiation of food takes place in facilities that aren't much different than the ones used to sterilize medicinal tools and consumer products. Automated trolleys carry the food past a stationary radiating rod, which is the source of the radiation. Controlling the dose of radiation is quite simple. The faster the trolley's speed, the lower the amount of radiation the food receives. The rod itself is usually made from the element cobalt-60, which releases the extremely energetic electromagnetic waves known as gamma rays. These gamma rays are unique because they don't have the ability to start a chain reaction. Therefore, they cannot make any substance radioactive, which is why the process is 100% safe to the consumer. In containing the radiation and not letting it leave the designated rooms where the food is planted, a radiation shield made from solid concrete is used to contain the gamma rays. In most facilities, when the cobalt rod is not being utilized, it is lowered into a storage pool made from water, which makes it safe for the workers to walk through the radiation shield without exposing them to harm. What happens to food as it is exposed to radiation? In a report written by Richard Burke entitled Food Irradiation, representing the Health Physics Society in 1988, the food undergoes a complicated change. First, most of the speedy gamma rays rush right through the food, having no effect, while only a few are intercepted. But those who are intercepted provide the energy to destroy the pathogens in the food. In order to do this, the ionizing gamma rays damage the food's DNA, which is what provides the food with the information for its life. The microorganisms can no longer continue their pathogen activities, can no longer spoil the food, and the food itself cannot continue its natural aging process. In addition, certain radiolytic products are created, ones that are born and thrive under radiation. There are a few different types and can be many different applications of food irradiation. The three types include electron radiation, gamma radiation, and X-ray radiation. Electron radiation uses electrons accelerated in an electric field at a velocity close to the speed of light. This type of radiation has a cross-section much larger than the other two types, and consequently can only travel a few inches into a substance. Gamma radiation, as stated before, is the most preferred method. It is composed of photons which have a very high speed and a very small cross-sectional area. This makes its use ideal for large facilities that treat a lot of food. Finally, X-ray radiation is created from colliding electrons at very high speeds. It has similar attributes of gamma radiation with the added bonus of being run on electricity, so when it is not being utilized, it can be turned off as easily as turning off a light. The only downside to this type is that it is significantly more expensive to maintain than gamma radiation, which is why most facilities decide to use the gamma type rather than the X-ray type of radiation. The different applications of food irradiation can vary. For example, one application could be irradiating an entire warehouse full of food that is going to be shipped out to different locations. But, on the other end of the spectrum, it could be irradiating a small serving for someone to eat on board a plane. There are many different types of food that undergo irradiation. Presently, fresh fruit, dehydrated spices, poultry, and ground meat products all take part in irradiation. Each of these types of food, when seen for sale in supermarkets and grocery stores, must have the RADARA logo, as required by law from the United States Food and Drug Administration. The FDA primarily regulates food irradiation, but some aspects are run by other administrations. The U.S. Department of Agriculture regulates the meat and poultry products. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is in charge of the safety of each facility, and the Department of Transportation is in charge of the transport of the radioactive source. One of the reasons why food irradiation hasn't become as accepted as scientists believe it should be is due to the many concerns from the American public. But who can blame them? The idea of blasting food with radiation doesn't necessarily sound safe. One question that people ask is whether or not the food is still as nutritious as it was before the exposure. The fact is that they are still very wholesome and nutritious. All other known ways of processing and storing food can take a toll on the nutritional value, but tests have proven that at low levels of radiation, sometimes that toll is immeasurable. Another question that is frequently asked is, do the foods become radioactive after being treated? In which the answer is no. Foods can only become radioactive by two means: by contamination of foods with radioactive substances, or by the penetration of energy into the nuclei of the atoms that make up the food. The irradiation process involves passing food through a field of radiation, which isn't strong enough to affect one nucleus of one food molecule. In addition, food going through this event can be compared to your teeth while the dentist takes an X-ray. When you leave the dentist's office, are your teeth radioactive? No, they are not. A final concern people have with food irradiation is if there are any long-term health risks. After hundreds of tests by the United States government, as well as many other countries' governments, it has been proved that food irradiation is safe. Just like all other forms of processing and storing food, food irradiation has positives and negatives. The pros include destruction of the most harmful pathogens in food. It can kill insects and pests infesting in foods, specifically grains and flours. It can be used to sterilize foods for those with immune deficiency viruses. And the nutrient losses are far less than all other types of treatments. Although the positive effects are numerous, there are still a few negatives that must be looked at, which include the process doesn't kill all the pathogens and viruses, such as the Norwalk virus found in seafood. It can only be used on certain types of foods. Fresh produce turns mushy and discolored. There is not a vast understanding about the potentially harmful radiolytic products according to the Council for Agricultural Science and Technology in report number 109. And finally, the facilities have the potential for great destruction of the environment if not handled properly. In an ever-changing world, we will continue to search for the most effective ways to protect ourselves from disease and sickness, using technology as our means of defense. Food irradiation can protect us from the commonly known diseases and viruses such as Salmonella and E. coli, but also has the capability to do a great amount of harm. As long as it is regulated to be safe, Food irradiation is a method worth utilizing.